There is a sentence composed of 14 words, simple, understandable to anyone, that, in my opinion, more than any other, should be printed today, in large letters above every entrance of kindergartens and schools around the world. This sentence is, it is no measure of good mental health to be well adjusted to a sick society. The author is Jiddu Krishnamurti, an Indian philosopher and speaker who lived between the 19th and 20th centuries. We will talk about his revolutionary, nonconformist, and enlightening thought today in this video. Have you ever felt the need to find meaning in life, as if, without an answer, everything was meaningless? Have you ever wondered if the search for a purpose itself is actually a way to escape reality? And what if the real secret is not to find answers, but to stop looking for them? Krishnamurti dedicated his life to challenging every entrenched belief, overturning the idea that the meaning of existence can be encapsulated in dogmas, philosophies, or predetermined paths. His thinking is an invitation to free oneself from every imposed framework, because truth, he said, is a pathless land. There is no single way to understand it, nor a guide to follow blindly. Anyone seeking definitive answers, according to Krishnamurti, risks falling into the trap of illusions, taking refuge in prefabricated ideas that offer a sense of security, but in reality distance one from the authentic understanding of life. From a young age, his existence was marked by extraordinary events. Raised in a modest environment, he was noticed by an important spiritual organization that considered him a predestined figure, a master capable of illuminating humanity's path. He was offered a rigorous education and a position of prestige, but within himself he felt a deep unease. He could not accept the idea of being placed on a pedestal, of being seen as a spiritual authority. His rebellious mind led him to make a choice that shook the spiritual world of the time. He publicly rejected the role that had been assigned to him, dissolving the organization created to support him. And he declared that no leader, no doctrine, no philosophical system could ever point the way to the truth. From that moment, he embarked on a solitary path, free from any label, dedicating himself to the pursuit of a deeper understanding of existence. This new path led him to question not only religious and philosophical structures, but also the very way in which human beings think and perceive reality. He believed that any form of conditioning, cultural or personal, was an obstacle to true understanding, as the mind, trapped in predefined patterns, ends up repeating models instead of seeing reality with new eyes. He did not just talk about intellectual freedom, but sought to live it fully, rejecting any affiliation with spiritual movements or ideologies. For over 50 years, Krishnamurti traveled tirelessly, giving lectures and holding meetings all over the world. He spoke both to large audiences and small groups. His reflections did not stop at theory, but touched on concrete aspects of existence: the role of fear in daily life, the burden of expectations imposed by society, the tendency to seek security in beliefs rather than in direct experience. He argued that fear was one of the main causes of human suffering, and that only by thoroughly understanding it could it be overcome. This meant facing one's insecurities without fleeing, without seeking refuge in comforting ideals or illusions. But his aim was not to offer ready-made answers. He did not want followers nor people who idolized him. His desire was to stimulate authentic reflection, urging each individual to look within themselves and to find their own freedom and truth without relying on masters or ideologies. He believed that the true revolution was not political or social, but internal, a radical change in the way of perceiving reality, free from conditioning and fears. One of the central points of his thought concerns the human need to find meaning in life. Why does this necessity arise? Why do so many people ask themselves this question? Krishnamurti believed that the search for meaning was often an escape from reality, a way to avoid facing life as it is. The desire to find a purpose arises, according to him, from dissatisfaction, from days that seem devoid of stimuli, and from a sense of emptiness that drives one to believe there must be something more, something grand to hold on to. But this search risks becoming a prison, an illusion, that prevents one from fully living in the present. The key to understanding life, according to Krishnamurti, is not to seek answers outside, but to look within, to observe oneself deeply without filters, as if every answer sought externally were just a shadow of what can be discovered through a sincere self-inquiry. It is the know thyself of the ancient Greeks, a concept so important to them that they carved it in stone on the temple of Apollo at Delphi, along with only one other warning, which is nothing in excess. Suggestions and reflections that lead one to think about how a human being, if they rely on absolute truths, prepackaged and especially external, to themselves risks becoming trapped in an illusion, unable to see reality for what it is. This vision also relates to the thought of Alan Watts, who argued that the meaning of life is simply to be alive. With these words, the English writer and philosopher suggested that the obsessive search for a purpose can distract from the only authentic experience. Reflecting on the concepts of Krishnamurti and Watts, one realizes how much their thoughts converge on a fundamental point. The meaning of existence is not something to find, but something to live. It is not about chasing answers or attributing an external meaning to life, but about being fully present, observing oneself without filters, and allowing reality to manifest as it is. In this way, living itself becomes the meaning, without the need for justifications or imposed purposes. It is that here and now. For us it is so difficult to grasp. And yet animals perceive it with extreme naturalness, as they, unlike us, are coded by instincts. Returning to Krishnamurti, according to him, the first step to take is to know oneself deeply, to observe one's emotions, thoughts, and contradictions without fear. One must not judge oneself or try to change what is discovered, but simply observe oneself with sincerity. This awareness leads to a profound transformation, because it frees the mind from prejudices and illusions that prevent seeing reality for what it is. But the understanding of life is not an individual isolated process. According to the philosopher, authentic relationships are at the heart of existence. True connection with others arises when one stops wearing masks, when interacting without ulterior motives, without manipulation, without expectations. Love, he said, is not something to build or conquer, but a real force that exists when living in harmony with the world. It has nothing to do with possession or control. It is not an abstract ideal, but a concrete experience that manifests in small daily actions, in authentic gestures, in mutual respect. This way of living leads to a radical change in the perception of life. It is not necessary to chase a grand purpose or find absolute answers. The meaning of existence is not found in a theory or ideology, but in the simple act of living with awareness, of being present to oneself and the world. When one stops searching for meaning, when one accepts the present for what it is, without the need for answers, something unexpected is discovered. Life already has value in itself, without the need to add anything. And if true freedom were this, to be able to find peace, to stop once and for all searching for answers and definitive truths, if the meaning of life were nothing more than the ability to exist without the need for explanations. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Easier said than done. I think so too. But developing such awareness, I think, is already a good first step to embark on the wonderful path. Pointed out to us by Jiddu Krishnamurti.